Oh, hello. Welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuff and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today is a very pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things. And on this pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things, we're going to discuss stuff like upcoming videos, things that you can look forward to on Stuff and Things and Stuff and Things Plays. We will get into a blend odor review that was unprompted or unsolicited from my fiance, so that should be kind of interesting. We'll have some feedback about last week's videos. We will talk about a YouTube recommendation, something that I think a lot of you would really love to watch. It's a really cool series on YouTube that I'm going to recommend. And then, of course, we have your questions in hashtag #AskStuffandThings. So let's get into it. All right, so what can you look forward to on Stuff and Things and Stuff and Things Plays? Well, I'll tell you. Yeah. This week on Stuff and Things, there will be a video. Now, it should have been the 9-month guitar challenge update, and that should have been, I guess, almost 2 weeks ago, but the holidays threw everything off, so I'm kind of cheating with this. And I actually got a new guitar. And I'm quite excited about it, and I think you guys will enjoy seeing this video. It's gonna be on Wednesday. Now, some of you will also freak out because in order to get this new guitar, I sold my Telecaster. But don't worry, you know, it's fine. But this guitar is really cool. I'm really excited about it. I'm really enjoying it. I just did a whole setup on it today, did the neck relief and the string height and everything. That's not what the video's about though. It's just me getting the guitar, unboxing the guitar, showing you the guitar, and playing the guitar for a bit and giving my first impressions. So that will be this Wednesday. Very exciting. It's always cool to get a new guitar, even if you had to sell an old one to get the new one. But anyway, then we are going to have the Demon Souls series coming to a close on Stuff and Things Plays. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday are the last 3 episodes of Kevin the Kurt's Adventures in Demon's Souls. So check that out for sure. And then I think the next blend that we're gonna be getting into is GLP's Meridian, which I have right here. This is one that I've had for a little bit, and it's intrigued me. I've wanted to try it for a while. I was actually going to do a revisited episode, but I couldn't find the blend that I thought I had to do the revisited episode on. So instead, we'll be doing a first impressions video of GLP's Meridian. That will be coming up not this coming week, but the week after. So lots of good stuff in the pipeline. All right, so, you know, in past pipe blend reviews, I used to talk about room note, and then I decided, I'm just gonna X that category out because it's not really appropriate. I'm never enjoying a blend in a space in which someone can come in who's not me and smell that blend and tell me what they think of it. And if you're the one enjoying the blend, it's almost impossible to have a realistic interpretation of what that blend smells like. You just have to have a third party, an uninterested party coming in. So I don't have a review of Room Note, but recently my fiance came into the room and she found a tin of this. It is Seattle Pipe Club Plum Pudding Special Reserve Flake. And I popped the tin open for her, and I put it to her nose, and she took a whiff, and she went and gagged, and then let out a string of expletives and described the aroma as, I think first she said it was like a dead rotting horse or something, and then she encapsulated her entire feelings, or all of her feelings about this blend by saying that it smelled like Marmite spread over a dead rotting animal. So there you go. That is my fiance's review of the tin odor for Seattle Pipe Club Plum Pudding Special Reserve Flake. Let me just take a whiff here. I'm sure many of you who have partners, wives, husbands, fiancés, whatever, who smell your blends may have similar opinions. This does have a lot of Kia in it. Let me see. Ah, Jesus Christ. I don't know what just happened there, but it got very slippery. I'm gonna have to clean some stuff up here. Here we go. Yeah, I don't get that. I don't get the Marmite slathered over rotting animal. It's just nice. It's smoky, it's woody. I do get, there is sort of a salty kind of thing going on there that maybe that's where she's getting the Marmite. And that smells delicious to me. I think that's delicious. I think she's wrong. I think she's wrong about the odor, but you know, what do you interpret? It's all about perception. Everybody has a different opinion on things. I'll be right back. Okay, I think I got everything there. I just thought that was funny because there are very few instances in which she has smelled a blend and been that disgusted by it. So just to put a little cap on this, anyone in the comments, if you have a particularly negative review of a blend that you were smoking or just a tin aroma or something like that from a loved one or a friend or even a stranger, let us know in the comments below. Now, we're gonna move on to a little bit of feedback from last week's videos. We have a couple missives from people here. We had the hummingbird feeding video actually a couple weeks ago, but a couple people, or actually quite a few people, were chiming in saying that basically you should stop feeding hummingbirds once winter comes because otherwise the hummingbirds won't go and migrate away. And they were suggesting that the only reason there were hummingbirds where I live is because people are feeding them and they're not leaving and migrating as they should. So we have one from Andrew Womble here who says, stop feeding the we stop feeding the hummingbird. He wasn't telling me what to do. He says, we stop feeding the hummingbirds here in the Carolinas after the last week in September. This helps to nudge them to migrate before the cool nights come. Thank you, Andrew. But as I think I mentioned in the video about those hummingbirds, basically it was a video, if you didn't watch it, where we had a crazy cold snap. It was like 7 degrees Fahrenheit. And the hummingbird feeders were freezing, and I was trying to find a quick way without having to order a heated hummingbird feeder, how to keep the hummingbird feeder flowing freely, and I did. But basically, the hummingbirds that I was feeding are Anna's hummingbirds, and they live in the Pacific Northwest year-round. They don't migrate. So that's why I was continuing to feed them. And as far as other hummingbirds not migrating because people are feeding them, I had looked into that before, and you know, none of the species that do migrate away from the Pacific Northwest, like the rufous and there's another one I can't remember, they're not still here. Like I don't still see them, even though we have feeders out. And from what I can from what I've been able to gather, they will leave. It's their urge to migrate away is much stronger than their urge to drink out of your hummingbird feeder. Like it is an imperative for them. They will go and migrate even if there is food where they were wintering or where they were summering, I guess. So that's not really a concern as far as I've been able to tell. Next, when I was talking about Big Star, the 70s band that I had heard of before, but I had really started appreciating them for the first time, John Robinson says, Big Star reminds me of the Raspberries. Look for a Raspberries song called Overnight Sensation and stick with it through the big finish. It's perfect power pop from the same early 70s period. Now, I definitely know the Raspberries. What's the main song? Go all the way, do, 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 feels so right, feels so right. That song, oh yeah, I know that song, the Raspberries. I don't know if I know Overnight Sensation. I'm gonna have to look that up, but I definitely have, I think I have at least one Raspberries album somewhere in the old iTunes library, so thank you for that, John. Now, we have some feedback, sort of. People were talking about, or not talking about, this brand new background. I've had this up for 2 weeks now, or 2 previous Sunday videos. Nobody mentioned it at all until finally last week. So Q Morris says, unrelated appreciation for Uzumaki on your bookshelf. Are you a Junji Ito fan? Just reread Tomei as an adult, and I can appreciate the art and storytelling way more. The only Junji Ito I've read is Uzumaki. It's a sort of graphic novel, horror, really weird. It's weird. You should check it out if you haven't read it already, but that's all I've read from Junji Ito, but I'm intrigued. I'd like to check out a few more of his works. A few of his other works. Wow. And then we have some feedback for the plum pudding review last week. This is from Walla Walla 888. Great review that captures the enhancement. Looks like the plum pudding special reserve cut into flakes, sort of like sliced bread versus buying a loaf. Right, oh yeah, because there's the cake version of special reserve. I loved plum pudding special reserve cake as a smooth, mild, but flavorful blend. It's one of those blends that is a treat. The Orientals give it a very smooth, sweet, mild, woody flavor. The Latakia and Orientals take center stage, but the Perique gives it a nice balance. It's perfect. Thank you for your feedback, Walla Walla 88. And then Doing It Wrong says, Band-Aids. You nailed the description of a smell I pick up in a lot of blends. Better description than leather tanning chemicals. I'm a fan of SPC Plum Pudding Special Reserve Flake, and during the summer it pairs very well with iced coffee made with a dark roast like Café du Monde. Cream and no sugar. Thank you very much. A lot of people seem to really enjoy Plum Pudding Special Reserve Flake. And that review posted last Wednesday. So check it out if you haven't already, and thank you all for your feedback. And now I would like to recommend something to you. I am a connoisseur of YouTube in a way, I guess. I don't watch a lot of things on YouTube. There are just certain channels that I tend to gravitate to and I tend to watch fairly religiously. Don't watch a lot of the meme-y sort of trending things on YouTube. There's one channel that I've watched a lot, especially in the last year or so, and that is That Pedal Show. They are a British and an Australian man who live in the UK and do reviews on guitar gear and things like that. Both very nice guys. They seem to be, actually I've had some interaction with them online too. They seem super nice. And I think I've mentioned them on the channel before, but recently they posted a series. It's in 5 parts. And I think it's just called Dan's Acoustic Guitar Build. And there's parts 1 through 5. So I will put a link in the description box below if you're looking for this, or you can just search on YouTube, That Pedal Show, Dan's Acoustic Guitar Build. But it is such a cool series where basically one of these guys, Dan, he's the Australian, he had put his name on a waiting list for a local luthier. I think he's located in Bristol. And his name is Johnny Kincaid, and he makes guitars. He also works on electric guitars, but I guess his main passion is making acoustic guitars, and they're called Kincaid guitars. They're gorgeous, and he had, I think when Dan put his name on the waiting list, there was a 2-year wait for him to start making the guitar. And so it took 2 years. Dan put his name down long ago, and then finally it was ready to be made. And so he asked Johnny's permission to just come and film as much as he could about the process. And it was basically every week he would come and check out what had been done and the progress that Johnny was making on this acoustic guitar. So if you love watching master craftsmen who know exactly what they're doing amazing work, you should watch this series, because he takes the raw materials using hand tools and builds an acoustic guitar over a period of a couple months, I think. It's just really cool to see. And I've watched, factory tours for Martin guitars and Taylor guitars and things like that. And obviously there's a lot of handwork still involved with those guitars. But when you see something just entirely made by hand and to such a high standard and with such tight tolerances, I mean, it's a musical instrument. It has to work well. It's really fascinating, and it's really cool to see Johnny, the builder, just has a really engaging personality. You should definitely check it out. I think it's just fantastic. I love watching people do something with amazing competence. I just really enjoy that. And seeing him, there's one thing that really stuck out with me, and it might be just, I don't know, it just randomly grabbed me, but there's a part where he had, I can't remember if it was the front or the back of the guitar before it was all put together. And there is bracing material put on the guitar to keep it stiff, and so it doesn't just belly out when you have the strings on there. And he was starting to shave that bracing material down and thin it out and just make it into the shape that he wanted it to be. And he took a chisel and he just starts going at it. And the surety with which he approached that, and then the results that were just this perfect, almost kind of Gothic arch cross-section on these braces, I just love seeing stuff like that. So check out Dan's Acoustic Guitar Dan's acoustic guitar build, parts 1 through 5, on That Pedal Show on YouTube. And like I mentioned, there will be a link in the description box below. It's really cool. You should definitely check it out. All right, gang, but now it is time for hashtag Ask Stuff and Things. Remember, if you have a question for me and you would like it answered on the Sunday Stuff and Things, tweet at SAT Bradley with the hashtag Ask Stuff and Things. You can also ask me questions via YouTube comments. I try to I try to go through all the comments and pick out questions. And if you are a Patreon supporter, you can write to me on Patreon. And via Patreon, we have a question from Aaron H., who says, "Hey, thanks for making Stuff and Things. I really enjoy hearing you talk about stuff and things. Now that it's winter in the north, are there types or specific blends of tea that you find leave less of a long-term odor when smoked indoors? Speaking of leaves, maybe certain blends differ in odor when they have burley, Cavendish, Latakia, or dark fired. I don't S aromatics and presume aromatics would be worse. It was recently 18 degrees Fahrenheit, -8 degrees Celsius here, so thanks for your help, Aaron from Rhode Island." Thanks for the question, Aaron, and thanks for your support on Patreon. So, specific teas that leave less of an odor indoors. It's kind of tough for me because I'm not imbibing indoors typically. I would say that in general, it's hard to make generalizations, but a Latakia blend, I don't mind the smell of Latakia at all. I think it smells good, but for people who don't like the smell of Latakia, that does seem to maybe be heavier. I don't know that it necessarily lingers longer. I think you want to avoid burley blends probably, and maybe heavy Latakia blends, in my opinion. I think burley blends smell a lot like cigarettes inside an enclosed space. And aromatics actually, even though I don't like them that much, their odor is aromatic. Like it will smell more like, as far as the odor, it might not taste very much like it, but it will taste or smell more like cherry or vanilla or whatever the aromatic flavor is in the room. There will be that underlying tea odor as well, but it just depends, and it depends on who you're trying to impress with the odor as well. If it's just you, then that's easy, because if you know that you like the smell of something, then you can have that in a room, and that's what the room will smell like. Again, though, pipes, the odor from smoking a pipe does not linger anywhere near as long as smoking cigarettes does. Anyway, we have a question from Twitter, or via Twitter, from Matt Piccolo, at MattPiccolo3. Matt says, "My dad told me a story about how he had just finished a concrete pour for some project, and chickens befouled the freshly smooth surface by trotting all over it. Have you ever had unwelcome animals on one of your pours?" Yeah, a lot. A whole lot. We've had pretty much any animal you can think of, well, within reason. Animals that would be either native to the Pacific Northwest or of the domestic variety. Countless deer have walked over unfinished pours or finished pours. It's not as bad when you're still there, because then you can fix it. But if you're like, okay, we're done, we've put up some caution tape, hopefully humans won't come through here, then you leave, and then a whole troop of deer come and walk over it, and then you come back the next day to strip your forms and find hoof prints all over the place. It's kind of annoying. That happens fairly often. Raccoons can happen quite a bit. Cats, of course. Dogs, of course. People do it all the time, because sometimes they're just stupid, or sometimes I think they do it on purpose because they find it amusing. We did a bunch of sidewalk once at a apartment complex that was mostly Western Washington University students, so mostly college students, and they decimated the concrete. And I'm thinking, you're technically adults, you're going to college, but you're drawing penises in the concrete, which is funny. I mean, I have to admit it is funny, but they're walking all over it, putting handprints in, drawing in it. It's just, yeah, it happens all the time, constantly. Next, via YouTube, we have a question from Pascalism. They say, "My first experience with an English blend was plum pudding. And as an Aero Esser, my first impression was, what is this? Smells like a horse's ass." But, oh, so you did not like the smell of plum pudding either. But the smell and the taste grew and grew on me, and now I like a bowl every night. I just received my second English blend today, and early morning pipe was it. Huge disappointment. Your review is on point. I was expecting some sweetness and complexity, but it was just like essing a bad cigar mixed with a cigarette. I was about to order nightcap and Presbyterian this week, but I am now on a fence. I'm assuming you mean on the fence. What would you recommend to an Aero Esser who likes an occasional English and loves plum pudding? I would want to try something different than plum pudding, obviously, but with a little bit of sweetness and richness. Go ahead and try the nightcap. I think you will enjoy nightcap. It has sweetness in there for sure. It's bold, but if you enjoyed plum pudding, I don't think that, I mean, not they're exactly the same as far as the character and the flavor profile, but I think you'll like nightcap if you like plum pudding. But yeah, there are so many other ones. Try Peterson Standard is just a nice basic English mixture. I think you'll enjoy that a lot. Try Ashton Artisans. There are so many good ones. So many good ones. I don't think you can go too wrong. Next from Ian Jones. Bradley, I have a question. I have a few 250-gram boxes of Sam Gawith still in a box unopened. Well, look at you. And maybe 2 years of age already. My question is, when should I jar this up, if at all? Now, maybe some of you in the comments can reinforce this or let me know for sure, but aren't the 250-gram boxes of Gawith just loose in a box? Isn't that the case? If it's not in a tin, I would put it in a jar, in an airtight container. That's basically my rule of thumb. If I'm gonna age something, even if it's in, you know, like a foil bag or something like that, I tend to have it for a couple years, I will take it out and put it in a jar. If it's in a tin, I leave it in the tin. But if it's not in a tin, I'll put it in a jar. So I'm not exactly sure, I've never had one of these 250-gram boxes of Gawith, but I don't think it's like individual tins within a 250-gram box. I'm pretty sure you should probably decant that and put it in some jars, and maybe put it in several smaller jars so you could take some out without disturbing the aging on all the other jars. Just a suggestion. Gang, thank you so much for the questions. Please keep those questions coming. But before we leave this week, it's time for the very best part of the show, and that's where we thank our Patreon supporters. You know, if you would like to support the channels on Patreon, there is a link in the description box below, and it would be much appreciated. Patreon supporters help pay for the fancy camera that is filming this video right now, the lights that are shining upon me, blends like this, even though I didn't actually pay for this because Sutliff sent it to me, but blends like this, even though actually someone might have sent me this too, but blends like some blends that I have to buy sometimes. It helps a lot. And we really appreciate it. And every week we like to thank those people who support the channels at $25 or more by giving them a special shout out. People like Kirk Crompton, Private Eye, Glenn, Jason Buckner, Gloria Phillips, Ryan McFadin, Matt Marino, and MDoftheNorth. And of course, the crazy maniacal weirdos who support the channels at $100 or more a month, or well, $100 a month. People like our good friend Peter Straub, the stolid, dependable Bob Magee, David Gaudreau, Mr. Luxurious, and our most recent maniac, Ashes of the Phoenix. Thank you all so much. Thank you all so much for your support, for watching, for subscribing. Go ahead and subscribe. Press the like button. Share it with a friend. Do all that good stuff. Tune in for Mystery Guitar coming up on Wednesday. You're going to know what it is as soon as you see the title, but that's cool. I'm very excited about it. It's very cool. The final 3 episodes of Demon Souls, Kevin the Kurt's Adventures on Stuff and Things Plays on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then the week after, we will do a first impressions video of GLP's Meridian. But until next time, until we meet again, I've been your good friend Bradley. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things on a very pleasant Sunday Stuff and Things. I'll see you later. Yeah.